We're saving the best for last. High energy, everybody. Yeah, let's go. It's so awesome to be in person. I think all of us, so many people, this is our first event back into the wild. So very, very appreciative of Brand Innovators being able to pull this off. Just a real quick intro. My name is Jeff Pabst. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Loaded. We're gaming talent management. We work with basically the biggest creators in the world. We're known for having brokered the Ninja and Shroud deal when they went over to Mixer, RIP Mixer. But prior to working at Loaded, I was the Chief Revenue Officer at FaZe Clan, which I built, and it's actually IPOing here very soon. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Orli from Verizon. You want to give a quick intro on yourself and your background?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Orli LeWinter. I'm the head of brand engagement at Verizon. I am 2 months into the job, so don't ask me any Verizon-specific questions. In my purview at Verizon, I head up all social content, community, influence, advocacy, and just overall engagement with the brand. So really fun, and it's a really exciting job for a brand like Verizon, which how many of you are Verizon subscribers of some kind? Awesome. So you all touch the brand and the business and the product every single day, but it's often something that sort of falls into the background. And I think that there's a huge opportunity with a brand like that to do some really fun stuff.
Totally. So creative at its core, your role specifically, like how do you influence creating a brand narrative for a brand historically that's looked at as a telco that's repositioning itself as a tech player?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big and meaty question. I think so. As Jeff sort of alluded to, Verizon has traditionally been seen as a telco, and with everything that's going on in technology innovation and platform innovation today, we're really powering the next wave of how everybody sort of engages with their devices and their experiences. It really is emerging into more of a tech brand space, and the great thing about that is that beyond just being a phone company or an internet company, we really are the backbone of all these incredible experiences that you guys are having every day in your everyday lives. So whether you're at a sports game or a concert or gaming or really anything, the fact that we power that, it gives us a really interesting place to play in the narrative around these incredible cultural moments that people are experiencing every day. So, we do rely a lot on our partners in, whether it's like the NFL or Live Nation or some of the gaming companies. Partnerships are a huge part of how we do marketing at Verizon, because that's what you guys care about. Nobody cares about, the fiber driving things or the 5G waves like in the air. You care about what you get on the other end that we power. So I think it's really fun to have incredible partners that we can work with to tell those stories.
I guess like the misunderstanding I think a lot of consumers have around 5G. I feel like everybody's looking for this like magic solution, but like how do you develop creative for a technology you can't touch? Like that's a really tricky thing, and I'm always very curious to hear like your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean it's a branding and positioning thing, and it's talking less about the technology itself, which is really really hard to understand and really boring, and talking more about what the technology enables.
Yeah, so we were just sidebarring just a few minutes ago. We were talking about the Super Bowl. So Verizon at the halftime show. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that was such an interesting.
So who
obviously,
watched...
LA guy here, so I was very biased. I thought it was the greatest performance I've seen. Can you talk a little bit about the technology behind that?
Sure. Who watched the Super Bowl? Basically, like everybody in the room. Awesome. Halftime show. Scale of 1 to 10. 10. It was so good. Okay, now I'm going to ask another question. I'm probably going to get like 0 hands, but maybe not. It had I think 100 million views, so maybe not. Did you guys have the Pepsi halftime show app? Nice. So Verizon powered that. Verizon had this 360 camera on the ground, so if you were, which 99.99% of people were at home watching the Super Bowl, or even if you were in the stadium actually, because you're in the stadium, you're way, way, way back, you can't really see anything. Verizon had a 360 camera on the ground, and you could go into the app and see literally around the performers from all angles, and actually because of the 5G technology, which has extraordinarily low latencies, the the portal experience was like a couple milliseconds ahead of the actual TV stream of the performance. So we are even better than the TV networks. But Verizon built 5G into SoFi Stadium from the ground up, and that's really the future of where the company is going, and where, frankly, we as a society are going. I think that there's been a lot of talk during South by Southwest, and will continue to be over the years to come, about the Metaverse and digital experiences, and I think that's all great, and I'm really excited about what that brings, and Verizon certainly has a very important role there. But there's a role for the technology, a really important role for the technology to play in real life experiences, in really sort of greasing the wheels of everything that we're doing in our normal everyday lives as well. So for me, as a strategist, marketing strategist, and a content creator, and developing that creative story, I think that that's really, really rich territory, because we have an incredibly powerful role to play in everything that people are experiencing.
I think that the Metaverse and Web3 is clearly the topic of basically South by Southwest. I'm actually giving a presentation tomorrow on the Metaverse at 2:30, so come by. But Verizon's role in the Metaverse, is it to enable it through technology, or are you going to have a position? I feel like we're seeing Facebook rebranding their company to Meta. I'm curious. Really the role of Verizon.
We've talked about this a little bit. The Metaverse has existed in some shape or form for 20 years. We are continuing to make progress towards those things, and it will continue to advance as technology advances. But you know what? It cannot be done without the technology that Verizon provides. People don't really realize that, and it's the story that we need to tell as a brand. When you have to 3D render, lifelike images, that can't be done on the technology of yesterday. That will be done on the technology of tomorrow. And without that stuff, it's just none of it will be possible.
Totally. So you've been in the company 2 months, right? Are there any initial observations that you made coming into a new environment? Obviously, one of the largest companies in the world. Do you have any observations just fresh in?
Yeah, Verizon is an incredible brand, incredible product, and incredible service. But I think the Verizon brand narrative and the story, like I said, we touch everybody's lives every single day, and I think that has been seen as a utility more than anything else. And what I think is a really big, fun, amazing opportunity is to start telling that story in a way that builds connections with people, to bring it out from being just a utility that people expect to have, and create an appreciation for people around what it really means for them, and how it powers the things that they love. And it's the brand that we've built over the years has been built so much on the product and the service, that I think there's the company as a whole is now reinvesting in the brand experience.
Totally. So you made a reference to highlighting some of the official partnerships, the NFL, a bunch of stuff in gaming. About 2 years ago, Verizon historically didn't play in gaming at all, and I would argue is probably the most active brand, probably the biggest spender.
We do so much in gaming.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about some of the strategy and what Verizon is looking to accomplish with the gaming strategy?
Yeah, I approach marketing as building connections with people, and that can sometimes, it often takes the form of sort of niche, micro, or macro communities. And if you're not building a relationship with people who are, something like the NFL, okay, it's so broad. Gaming, I guess, is really broad as well, but it's a very specific sort of mindset. And if you're not in there having conversations and building a real sense of relationship with people who really sort of live their entire lives around this sort of topic or ecosystem, then you're kind of missing the boat. And I think so. For me, the thing to focus on is, how do we build relationships, authentic relationships with communities of people. And so that's the strategy around gaming. We are an incredibly important service for gamers, but not a brand that gamers really had thought of before we started really investing in building those relationships. Gamers wouldn't think of Verizon as like a really key part of their experience, and so that's really the goal, is to create these authentic relationships with communities. I mean, it's hard to talk about gaming as a community because it is so multifaceted and it is so broad, but it is, in a way.
Totally. So then what is Verizon's approach to gaming communities, or just communities at large? We were just having that conversation behind, and I think that's probably another topic of debate, is just, the power of community to just drive active brand conversations. So I'm just curious, the overarching kind of social strategy for you guys around community. Is it its own team? Is it a function of the marketing group? Who owns community for Verizon?
Yeah, it's a function of the marketing group. It's an interesting question because, when you say, okay, we're marketing to this audience, it feels very transactional. We sit within the marketing group, and so you get sort of like a bad rap. We're just paying for eyeballs, and there's definitely a lot of that. We spend a lot of money on TV spots, and our TV spots or our online video is targeted at specific, audiences, and there's a very, very, very important role for that to play, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is building relationships with various communities, and that does fall into marketing because you are promoting your brand, but we try to do it in a way that is additive to the communities and to the people, and that leverages the voices of authentic participants in that community. So whether it's partnering with influencers or big influencers, micro influencers, developing programs and tools that are useful to those communities, really providing value.
Amazing. So your function is a creative group in the larger marketing org. How does that whole work with, do you work in tandem with creative agencies? What's that process like?
Yeah, we have a number of amazing creative agencies, unlike some crypto brands that we might all know. We at Verizon really value the input that our creative agencies bring to the table, but it's not just creative agencies. It's people like yourself who are so immersed in these communities that it's important to have those partnerships because you understand the gaming community better than I could ever understand the gaming community. Sorry, I'm not a gamer.
We're all gamers somehow.
My extent of gaming is like the New York Times crossword. Yes, agencies play a very, very big part in our creative ecosystem, but we also have a very, very, very large in-house creative team at Verizon, and I think that is key to our success in the space, and we continue to build and foster that in-house agency because nobody can really tell the brand story as well as you can when you're a part of the brand.
Totally. So you were at 360i before. Why did you decide to make the transition from the agency side over to a brand like Verizon? Just curious more of your story.
Yeah, agency life is really fun, and it's a great place for me to cut my teeth. I did some amazing work on the agency side, but I always felt a little bit hampered. Being on the agency side, having anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen clients at a time, you can never really go deep into any one particular industry or any one particular brand. And at the end of the day, and God bless my agencies, you're in a service industry. It's a service business. The client says jump and you say how high. They say here's the brief and you execute on the brief. And you get so much more amazing stuff out of it on the agency side that I miss sometimes being on the client side. But I felt like at a certain point in my career, I wanted to be making the calls on what the brief was and how to answer the brief, and then have my agencies in service to me. They can work till 10 p.m. and just kidding.
You were talking just a little bit ago about just Verizon's playbook around official partnerships. Why does Verizon go towards the official versus with the NFL, Team Liquid, Twitch? Why is that an important part of the strategy that you guys look at?
I think it's a relevance thing. I mean, it's just plain and simple. People love the NFL. People love Twitch. And Verizon, we break sometimes, and people get really angry. It's just a different kind of relationship, and so our partners are really, really important to us. to get closer to our consumers and have a conversation with them that feels relevant.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about 5G, you know?
Totally.
You want to talk about 5G. We can talk about 5G, but really, like, people don't want to talk about 5G. People want to talk about their sports teams or their, their gaming.
And so how does that impact, like, your creative strategy? Do you bring in the partners and it's like a creative brainstorming, is a collaborative process? Like, how does that work? I know we have probably quite a few media companies here in attendance. I'm curious if you have any suggestions on how that process works best, working with official capacity with a brand like Verizon.
Yeah, it's a super collaborative process. We try to be as closely tied to our partners as possible, and we like co-creating with them. They give us access, we make content. They give us content, we give them technology. So it really is like a holistic ecosystem that we like to think of them as true partners in every sense of the word, rather than just partnership, as a signature on a piece of paper.
But how does like a partnership like what you did with SoFi, the Super Bowl, like how does that how does that moment get created? Like, is that just, hey, we want to do something special around the Super Bowl, it's idea driven, let's power the tech? Like, how does that
These
work?
are, for the most part, extremely strategic business partnerships. Verizon is a technology brand, and we're not just a marketer. We're not selling cookies. Like, there is deep technology rooted in everything that we do. And so for SoFi, for example, that partnership started many years ago when they were building SoFi Stadium. It wasn't just like, hey, we want to activate at the Super Bowl. These are really, really, really in-depth partnerships. So for SoFi, we built it from the ground up with the stadium, built the 5G technology into the stadium, and there's no way a partnership as effective and successful as we had could happen if we were just coming in at the last minute saying, hey, let's just put our name all over the Super Bowl and have an activation there and make some content. Like, we as a business and as a product have been deeply enmeshed into the whole thing.
Going into new categories, like obviously we're repositioning towards more of a technology player, not just 5G, bundling a bunch of services. I know that's become like a really important part of your business. What's coming next from you guys?
Well, fixed wireless is I would say the next phase. So I don't know if you guys saw the Super Bowl commercial with Jim Carrey's cable guy. That is really the next phase of growth for Verizon, is powering not just being your mobile carrier, but really powering connectivity wherever you are.
Yeah, so I'm a Verizon customer, and I also get a lot of bundle, and I get a lot of perks. Like, how do you market those perks to the
Those perks are gold for someone like me. Really, I am so grateful to Verizon for doing things like that, because for me as a marketer, like, that's the fun stuff to talk about, and it really is amazing as a Verizon customer to be able to get all of this stuff with the service. It's why Verizon is a premium brand versus some of the others, which are more cost brands.
It almost seems like you have your cell phone plan, but it's like almost like Amazon Prime, but for your phone and all the media that you ultimately consume.
Yeah, I mean that's a strategic business. Far be it from me as someone creating stories and marketing on the back end to have an opinion on that stuff. But that is a strategic business priority for Verizon, is to be that partner, to be that brand that is bringing you all of those things, because it really is driving value for our customers, rather than just like the competing on price.
Do we have any questions? Does anybody want to ask Orli anything specific?
Or Jeff, you can ask Jeff.
Or you can ask me if it's anything related to gaming.
Thank you. This has really been interesting. I'm a long-time Verizon customer. I also work for a youth sports management platform. And I know a lot of times with sports, we see a lot of the sponsorship happen at the professional level, and Home Depot does college sports. When you think about engaging a younger generation, how are you going about doing that with other initiatives? I know gaming is one, but how about a couple others? What have you thought about, that kind of a differentiators? And I know you're only 2 months in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to step on any third rails or anything. We may have youth sports partnerships that I don't know about, but I think it's an incredible point. I'm a brand marketer, and I know that brands are built from an early age, and those brands that you feel connected to as a kid just stick with you. And so I think it's a great point, and frankly, as a value that we can bring to organizations like yourself in the youth sports and other in education. We have a really big education sort of priority vertical where we have invested very heavily in bridging the digital divide, providing devices and training for kids and teachers in educational environments. And so I actually wouldn't put it past us for having something like that I don't know about, because I know how important of a priority the educational side is for us, but I will definitely look into that.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, when I was first got at FaZe Clan, and this is when gaming was really starting to come mainstream. It was the middle of like Fortnite, the wave that kind of happened. And our Nissan client pulled me aside one day, and she's like, "You know, I'm not working with you in official capacity. This is about the future." She's like, "I'm building equity. It's a 5-year plan to change perception." And it was really refreshing, because it wasn't just, we want to target your audience now. We want to target them for the next 5 years. And I just thought it was beautiful. So fits right in nicely with that. You need a question?
Is AT&T considered your biggest competitor, or how do you look at competitors versus what you just talked about is being a technology brand and really just educating the consumer on, the experiences with your brand?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally you're right. AT&T and T-Mobile would, probably be in Sprint. Previously to that would probably be the sort of top couple of competitors for Verizon. I would like to say that we're leapfrogging them, and now it really is about positioning the brand as a tech brand, less than a telco brand. But they are still, obviously, from a business revenue standpoint, those kinds of companies are pretty big competitors from the wireless side.
Following up on that, Comcast, you guys have an association with Comcast?
What's that?
Do you guys have an association with Comcast? I couldn't remember. I thought I saw that at one point. Comcast and Verizon were doing things together.
I don't believe so, but.
Okay.
You talked a lot about building communities and supporting communities, and it was always from the context of gaming or this audience or that audience. In the beginning, you mentioned you're also responsible for advocacy. Do you look at these communities through the lens of DEI and incorporate that into your activations and think about that in terms of engagement?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think it's a funny thing to talk about, the idea of building community around a brand. And I think that there are not that many brands that can, you've got like a Peloton, which is literally like communities of people coming together, and so community is integrated into what they are as a business and as a product, and then obviously as a brand. And I think that you can very easily get to a place where it's like, really, you want to build community around Verizon? Nobody wants to be part of a Verizon community. But I think about community less as like big C community in the Peloton sense, which is great for them, but for us, little community, those one-to-one relationships that we create with people, it's obviously first going to be based on delivering product and service excellence, but as a brand, creating that dialogue and fostering a relationship, one-to-one, one to a small group, one to many, and all of those things combined is like a concentric circle, and that's how you build brands. You build a real relationship with people, and a lot of that is advocacy. A lot of that starts with customer care. When somebody has a problem, how do you address it? It's not easy, and it takes years and years to build true advocacy and community around a brand. Even if I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we have literally a Verizon community. But I think we can get to the point where people feel like they are part of the Verizon. They feel like they're co-creating the brand in a way. They feel like they really have loyalty to not just the service, but the brand.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see Verizon bundling additional services. You have your Verizon Up program, and you can actually win concert tickets and an opportunity to stream with some of your biggest gamers that you follow. I mean, the Verizon Up, I feel like, is a form of advocacy.
It totally is.
It's
yeah. If you guys are, all of you, 80% of the people in this room who are Verizon customers, you should definitely join Verizon Up and see what that looks like, in real life from a product standpoint.
I have one last question. So, as someone who's 2 months into a new role, congratulations, so exciting. What are you most looking forward to about your position with Verizon?
I think that from a creative content standpoint, there's a real opportunity to be more consumer driven. Take the insights that are coming from people who are using our product and talking about our brand, and build content that works for them. I think that's what I'm most excited about. Pivoting the way we look at content creation from here are the priorities that we have that we want to talk about to here's what our customers are saying and what really matters to them.
You know, you mentioned customer care. And I think that that's such an underutilized asset that organizations have today. And it's interesting, I pulled up a screenshot because I was on the phone with my bank, so Citibank, and I'm a pretty good banker with them, FYI, but I had called them and I needed a card sent to, I was in Florida, I needed a card sent there, and the woman's like, you want to change your home address? I said, no, I just want you to send the card. So she's like, okay, I got it. It didn't sound like it was happening. And so 2 days later, I can't use my credit card. And it's because later on I found out that she made it my home address. But I call Citibank, an hour and 23 minutes on hold. I was like, come on, guys, are you kidding me? Hour and 23 minutes. And then they go, oh, by the way, that office is closed now. I was like, all right, I even went on the chat.